We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
Let me just mention briefly one threat in particular that should concern all Americans.
Oh no, I'm all ears. This must be very important. We should listen very carefully.
Democrats, Republicans, and independents alike, especially those who serve in our Congress.
I got a bad feeling about this.
The epidemic of malicious fake news and false propaganda that flooded social media over the past year. It's now clear that so-called fake news can have real-world consequences.
Say what?
Have real-world consequences. Have real-world consequences. This isn't about politics or partisanship.
What is going on here?
Lives are at risk. Lives of ordinary people just trying to go about their days, to do their jobs, contribute to their communities.
Okay, I'm going to have to stop you right there. Did I hear you correctly? Lives are at risk because of fake news on the internet. Let's be clear what we're talking about. We're not talking about stories that promise false cures or treat chemicals that are dangerous as not dangerous, or tell people how to badly wire their houses so they'll die of electrical shock or burn their house down. No, we're talking about stories about you, Hillary, that somehow these fake stories about you put people's lives at risk. I find it very hard to believe that a fake story about you would manage to put anyone's life at risk unless that threat came from you. So as long as you're willing not to go after anyone for publishing a fake story and threaten their lives, then I guess all of the risk to people's lives over fake news about you is over? Or are you simply trying to hype the fake news story about fake news in order to take the attention off of the resounding defeat you have just suffered?
It's a danger that must be addressed, and addressed quickly.
What really offends me, though, and should offend all Americans, is the presumption you have that just because fake things exist on the internet, somehow the American people need to be protected by government from these fake things.
Bipartisan legislation is making its way through Congress to boost the government's response to foreign propaganda, and Silicon Valley is starting to grapple with the challenge and threat of fake news.
In essence, you have the opinion that Americans are stupid, that we are incapable of deciphering for ourselves fact from fiction, that we can't walk past the tabloids at the supermarket checkout and avoid the obvious and glaring examples of bad press, that we don't know how to research and dive into subjects and decide for ourselves what is true and what is not true.
It's imperative that leaders in both the private sector and the public sector step up to protect our democracy and innocent lives.
There are several important underlying presuppositions that we have to deal with as we deal with the topic of fake news. First of all, does fake news exist? Of course there are fake things on the internet. However, the idea that the existence of fake things on the internet somehow influenced the election is problematic. First of all, we as Americans understand that there are fake things on the internet. We know about clickbait. We know that just because something's on the internet, we don't believe it. Facebook has changed its security settings, and all of your private information is going to be released if you don't do X, Y, and Z tomorrow. We get it. There are fake things on the internet, and we have figured that out. Secondly, the idea that likes and clicks and shares presumes agreement, acceptance, or acknowledgement of something as being true. That's not the case either. And third, the fact is that it is unproven that fake news has changed anyone's opinion. The next presupposition is that people are unable to determine the truth for themselves, that we need the media or we need the government to control what we're allowed to see, what we're allowed to hear, what we're allowed to watch, in order to protect us from false things in the world. This approach, of course, leads to the silencing of voices. This is the violation of rights in order to protect the American people. This is the Patriot Act writ large across our free speech. In this approach, it is better to silence a voice, to violate those rights, than it is to actually counter something false with something true. Unless your point is not trying to counter fake news, that fake news is fake, and the whole point is to control what you're allowed to see, what you're allowed to hear, and what you're allowed to watch. Thanks for watching my first video. Please subscribe below and be on the lookout for the first video in our social justice series coming out next week. Thank you.